Hello, my name is John Rose, and in this video I'd like to take a closer look at the possibility as to whether or not a raw vegan diet is extreme, and I also want to look at the possibility as to whether or not a raw vegan diet is too extreme. So let's start with whether or not the raw food diet is extreme. And the simple answer to that is yes, of course a raw vegan diet is extreme. If we rate all of our diets on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1's the worst and 10 is the best, we've got a raw vegan diet as the best relative to our essential needs. And this is important, and that will become evident here shortly. So we've got a raw vegan diet at one end, that's extreme. We've got the worst diet on the other end, that's extreme. What do you want in life? The worst or the best? So yes, the raw vegan diet is extreme based on where most people are at. But keep in mind, most of us are making lots of dietary mistakes, and it's reflected in the condition of what we got as a species, which is a sad state of affairs. Next, let's take a closer look at whether or not we could say that the raw vegan diet is too extreme. Now, there's two ways I need to answer that question. First of all, it's important to understand that yes, a raw vegan diet could be too extreme whenever we think that's all we have to do and we don't have the knowledge of how to adapt. And this is what's happened to the natural hygienist. They know what comes before the cause, they have the knowledge of how to live, but they don't know what comes after the effect, and that's the knowledge of how to adapt. In other words, we now have two groups of needs we must satisfy. That's why I mentioned earlier that the raw vegan diet is the best relative to one of those two groups of needs. And the key here is that we have another group of needs we must now satisfy. So the raw vegan diet can be too extreme if you ignore the fact that we've damaged ourselves and society and the environment, and now we have this other group of needs we must satisfy. This is why Herbert Shelton died. It's why T.C. Fry died. They had the knowledge of how to live, but they didn't have the knowledge of how to adapt. They didn't realize there's another group of needs we have to satisfy. They didn't think they could screw up the law of cause and effect. And I understand this mentality. It's easy to go, hey, there's the law of cause and effect. You remove the cause, you don't get the effect. And you think it'd be that simple. But you can change what you do overnight, but you can't change what you got overnight. We've damaged ourselves. So now we have to respect the fact that our ideal diet is only our ideal diet in an ideal world. We don't live in that ideal world anymore. We've got another group of needs. So that's not an indictment on the raw food diet. It's an indictment on the mistakes we've made. That's damaged everything. Let me illustrate my point with this simple analogy. Let's say you smoke a bunch of cigarettes to a point where you've damaged your lungs and you can't get everything you need out of clean air, and now you need pure oxygen. So you've damaged your lungs, and now you need pure oxygen. Does the fact that you now can't get everything you need from clean air negate the fact that you still need clean air? Of course not. The only problem is clean air doesn't satisfy your needs anymore because we've damaged ourselves. Our lungs can't do what they need to do. This is what we've done. We've damaged ourselves in the society, in the environment. There are a lot of level 2 nutrients that we might not be able to make and get, or even simple things like sunshine, because we're living in the wrong place. Living in a place that doesn't produce the food you need to eat and give you the sunshine you need doesn't mean that we still don't have to respect that first group of needs. And see, this is a big problem a lot of us make. We end up looking for an excuse to blame our mistakes, and that allows us to keep making those mistakes and keep eating the cooked food because we're addicted. The problem with addictions is we always look for something to confirm what we want. You know, we want someone to say it's okay to keep eating that. You don't have to be 100%. And I'm not here screaming you gotta be. I know how hard it is to change. It's the hardest thing I've ever done is to quit eating cooked food. And I don't look down my nose at anyone who can't successfully make that transition completely, because it's a hard thing to do. It's because we get addicted to this cooked food. It puts us under a spell. I call it the hunger spell. And there's only one way to overcome that. And that's where you do the first of my 3-step process. And you can click down below in the description box to a seminar I gave that explains how to do that. But the point we want to get at here is that yes, the the raw vegan diet is extreme. It's the best. Yes, it can be too extreme if we don't realize that it's not going to satisfy all of our needs anymore. We got this other group of needs. But then let's really look at whether or not the raw vegan diet is too extreme. It's too limited. Oh my God, I can't just eat bananas and oranges and pears and what are a couple of the other fruits that most people only know. There's only about 4 fruits or so that most people are eating all the time over and over and over. They have no idea of the wide variety of fruits. If we weren't so screwed up as a species, if we can get reconnected, which is my mission in life, is to get us to do that, we can have food everywhere. Everyone would have all the free food they would want. And there are hundreds of varieties of just bananas and grapes and zapate. There's such a wide variety. Most people have no idea what kind of paradise this would be like, because we'd have a wider variety of food. No one would have to pay for it. We'd have free housing. We'd have free electricity. The system we have right now is pathetic, and it keeps us where we are. The status quo keeps us where we are. We got to break away from this, because we're not even coming close to living up to our potential, physically and mentally and emotionally and communally. We are failing as the guardians on this planet and doing our job because we're disconnected. We lost one of our senses. That's the fall of mankind. What did we do that changed everything? We did something. What was it? It was simple. It's cooking the food. Why'd we do it? Who knows? We can speculate as to why it happened, and I'd sure like to know. But what we got to know, if we're going to correct something, we got to know what is it that we got to correct. What's in the second stage of knowledge? I have people all the time saying, that's not the fall of mankind. It's up here before the second stage. And yeah, I go, yeah, of course. It's part of the story. It's what comes before the mistake. And we got to figure out how to avoid that from happening again. But in the meantime, we got to correct the damn mistake. What is the mistake? What is in the second stage of knowledge that's put us in this dark ages where we have hundreds of thousands of problems? 40,000 children die every day. We're injecting vaccines in little bitty babies. We're pouring battery acid in them, basically, giving them chemotherapy. If you don't consent to this, they take your babies away from you. This world is the worst Twilight Zone episode anyone could ever imagine. We live in it right now, today. And this scares the hell out of most people because they feel helpless and they just shut their brain off and they don't want to even entertain these ideas. But the beauty about this is more and more people are realizing what's going on. More and more people are realizing what the Fed is doing. They say, in the Fed, in the Fed. More and more people are realizing that we have some sick people in charge. But the solution is not to scream at everybody and say, look at what we got. The solution is to say, look, they're a reflection of us. If we don't like that aspect of ourselves, all of us have to change. Remember, we can put our behavior in a bell-shaped curve. I've talked about this many times. 96% of us are in the middle of the bell, and we can't relate to either side of the bell. We've got the mentally challenged on one side, we have geniuses on the other side. You're in 96%, you can't understand what's going on in their mind and in their mind. Likewise, we have 1 or 2% are psychopaths, and who knows what the percentages are saints. And again, the 96%ers can't understand what the mentally challenged and the psychopaths are thinking any more than they can understand what the geniuses and the saints are thinking. And what's interesting, it's one side of the bell that has the solutions to figure out how to get rid of the other side of the bell, and you can't cut it off. That is not a possibility. You got to change the bell because the edges of the bell are a reflection of the bell. I was thinking of this as a stupid way of thinking about it, but it's an easy way to think of it, as disgusting as it is. And I normally don't like to use this word unless I'm really describing what it's for. But in this case, I think it still paints a good picture. Imagine this, what we have on the edge of our bell is a bunch of shit oozing out of our bell. And the reason why we got shit oozing out of the side of our bell is because the bell is full of shit. In other words, if we don't want shit oozing out of our bell, we got to get rid of the shit in the bell. And guess who the shit in the bell is? It's you guys who are disconnected and have a cesspool inside you. You're part of the problem. but you can be part of the solution. You can wake everyone up by being the change that you wish to see. You can do the first of my three-step process, and within days you'll see all the proof you need. It's scientific proof, it's concrete verifiable proof, it's indisputable proof that you got a cesspool inside you. How do I know that? I've coached thousands of people. How do I know it? I've done it over 1,200 days in the last 24 years, and I document all that crap that came out of me. And when you get rid of it, it's exciting. It's amazing how people are resistant to this. And the main reason is because they look too far ahead and they think, oh, I can't eat a raw vegan diet. Well, don't think about it now. You're not in a position to evaluate it. The vast majority of you are, I'm saying. The ones that are in that 96%, that's got to change. And so this is what I've been trying to focus on my whole time, and why I've been avoiding a certain community. I don't want to wake them up. They're already awake. I'm trying to figure out, how do we wake up the 96% of the bell? How do we tell this message so that people finally get to it or get it? Well, I'm convinced there's only one way. Do what Bill Bright did. He had 14 million people within 1 year doing the first of my three-step process. So it's already been done before. I'm not unrealistic. I know there is an idea that's stronger than all the armies in the world, because it changes our mentality. This is the biggest problem we have, and very few people understand it. Things will never change unless we change our mentality. We've got an exchange mentality. We don't have a gift mentality. Why? Because we don't feel the connection to everything around us. Now, the problem with helping people understand this is it's like a revelation. And remember, when most people hear the truth, if they have a high capacity, they'll do their best to try to put it into action. If they're so-so, they'll have two minds about it. They'll at least consider, but they're still thinking, no, I don't want to give up what I think I love. And then, of course, the sad part is that the majority are just going to laugh out loud at it. Now, that's basically what Lao Tzu said many, many years ago, and then Schopenhauer sort of paraphrased that when he said all truth goes through three steps. First, it's ridicule. Second, it's violently opposed. Finally, it's accepted as self-evident. So, when you're on the hero's journey and you're telling the story to people and they start snickering and laughing at you, you'll finally get to a point where you realize that's sort of a compliment, and it tells everybody more about that person than it does about you. That they are laughing at something they don't understand. And this is just like Plato's cave. When you come out of Plato's cave, if you care, you go back down to help your family and friends and to help them understand life is an illusion. You're in this cave of ignorance. You don't have the knowledge of how to live. Look into the fire so you can see the truth. And when you do that, people scream at you and say, don't make me look into the fire. It hurts my eyes. What's wrong with you? Why would you hurt me? Why would you tell me that the things I love are things I shouldn't do? I can't make it through the day if it wasn't for those yummies. Life is an illusion, my friends. The thing most of us love is the reason why we live in hell. Why do you think this is such a hard message to get out to people? People don't want to hear this. I figured that out a long time ago. The first thing I thought of is, why don't we know it? And I realized, well, most people don't want to know it. We've got addictions and denial. Then there's a whole group of people who don't want us to know it. And it's just the status quo. And it doesn't matter if they're all in cahoots or not. The status quo wants to remain the status quo. They're going to poison us and then give us poisons in the name of health. When you look at the chemical industry, a decade ago, it was around $3 trillion a year, representing about 5% of our gross domestic product worldwide. And basically what they're doing is they're polluting the environment. They're putting poisons in our water. They're putting poisons in the sky, on the ground, on our food. And then when we get sick, they have the audacity to give us more poisons in the name of health. And then when they start using chemotherapy, my God! Oh, my blood boils when I think about this, because do you guys know that it's the only drug they allow doctors to buy wholesale from the pharmaceutical company so they can mark it up? They buy it for $5,000, sell it to you for $12,000. When you come to them, do you got to do chemo? You bet you got to do chemo. We're going to give you one every week. $28,000 profit every month for every cancer patient. Oh my God, you got a lump here. It's cancerous. It really is not, but it's cancerous. Chemo, chemo. Money, 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 money. We live in a sick world. Our need for money is driving our so-called experts to keep them where they're at. And then when you look at greed, greed doesn't have to do with money. That has to do with the dark side of our behavior. It's one of the symptoms we have because we're disconnected. You see, this is why we have a problem. The first mistake we made destroyed one of our senses. It changed our mentality. As I mentioned, we'll never solve any of our problems as long as we got the wrong mentality. As long as we have an exchange mentality, as long as we're even using money in any way, shape, or form, we're going to struggle solving our problems because the solution destroys the whole system. And the system is like an entity that doesn't want to die. So the status quo wants to remain the status quo. There doesn't have to be a conspiracy, but I guarantee you a lot of people are in cahoots trying to organize this so they can get as big of a pie as they can. And they just don't want things to change. And why is it? Because we're disconnected. We have the wrong mentality. And there's only one way to change our mentality, and that is to stop destroying the nutrient that makes us feel all one with everything. It's faster than the speed of light. It's called a biophoton. Dr. Fritz Albert Popp has been doing research on this for over 40 years. All living systems store it in the nucleus of their cells. It's how all cells communicate. It is our sixth sense. It is our spidey sense. And instead of being around 83,000, according to Dr. Popp, we're down from 1,000 to 23,000. We're born at 43,000, so life is a steady decline, only getting worse as we age usually. Why? Because we're not eating enough raw plant food. That's why cooked food of any sort is the fall of mankind. It destroys the biophotons 100%. I challenge anybody to tell me a better answer than cooking for the fall of mankind. And I don't want to hear what comes before the second stage of knowledge. I keep having people say, cooking's not the fall of mankind. It's lack of willpower, blah, 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 blah. Well, yeah, well, it's part of the story. Remember, there's 3 stages of knowledge, so when you tell a story, well, this is what we acquired in the first stage of knowledge. It's false knowledge, and then we made the mistakes in the second stage of knowledge. And what do we got? We got a bunch of problems in the third stage of knowledge. So it's all part of the story. But if we're going to solve our problems, we got to know what is in the second stage of knowledge so we know what to correct. We got to stop going to the negative B box of mistakes. We got to go to the plus B box and apply the knowledge that we're currently missing. Easiest way to do that is to do the first of my 3-step process. Go down below in the description box and you'll see a link to a seminar that I gave. I will tell you basically all you need to know to take a solid food vacation so you can flush out a serpent that's actually inside your body, Beelzebub, and you also get to bump up your biophotons. And when you do, I guarantee you, my friends, you're in for a treat.